friends, if we don't know each other yet, my name is Mia Vandilu, and on December 8th, 2023, I released my debut EP, Open Book. I wrote the 5 songs on this EP 5 years ago, and have been working on getting this project out for the last 2 years, so I'm so excited that I finally get to share it with you all, and I'd love to see your responses and the songs you like the best so far. Since these songs have existed in so many different forms throughout their lives, I wanted to make videos to kind of take you through that process, because when I put out these songs, those are the only version you know, but I've lived with so many versions of each of these songs. They've gone through so many different melodies and lyrics, and just the process has been so intricate, and so I thought I'd take you with me on that process in this series, The Making Of. Now, if you haven't already, go listen to Open Book. You'll want that foresight, having heard all the songs on the project. And if you want to do this in order, I've already put out The Making of Fairy Tale, Match, and Doll. And here you are on The Making of Goodbye Friend, which is the second to last track on the EP. I want to take you through the inspiration behind this song, the songwriting process, and the recording process of it to get us to where we are with its final version that I put out on December 8th. But before I get started, I have to do the obligatory subscribe to my YouTube channel, follow me on my socials, whichever ones you are on the most, whether it be Instagram, TikTok, SoundCloud, whatever. Go follow me on there, and I'd love to connect with you and learn about your life and be friends and bond over music and whatever else together. So go reach out to me there and let's be friends. Goodbye Friend was the first song I ever wrote legitimately. I grew up writing a lot of music with my family and songwriting camps and things like that, but I got a ukulele, this one in fact, for Christmas in my freshman year of high school, and I taught myself how to play it. That is when I started to write music for real. This was the first song that I ever wrote then, and it launched this whole insane thing, because obviously now I'm pursuing music. I've written dozens, maybe over 100 songs. It really was the catalyst for a lot. It's really kind of a baseline writing style. I'm not the most proud of it, but it's just so special to me because it was the first one, and I've lived with this song for so long. One of the biggest themes in Open Book is coming into one's own, discovering your identity and how you relate to other people relationally as you're kind of growing up and becoming a valid human. I talk in Open Book about knowing whether someone is good for you, like whether you should be interested in them, and getting up off the ground when you're pushed down, and learning how to rest and rely on other people. And this song covers friendship dynamics when they change, which was something that was really difficult for me as I was transitioning from 8th grade to high school, which is, it feels so silly to talk about now that I'm 20 and I've done so many transitions since then. I do think that it's important to focus on these issues because they were real at the time, and there are kids out there who are going through this right now, and that doesn't mean their struggles are not legitimate. They're very legitimate. And I think that the things that I was going through back then were worthy enough to make art from, and so that means that they're worthy enough to give the time of day. I had this amazing friend group in 8th grade. It took me a really long time in middle school to get to a friend group that I really enjoyed. It was the group of kids in Seussical the Musical, so I played Gertrude McFuzz. That was my only lead role I really ever got, and it was perfect for me. I loved it. I lived that sucker up. I ended up hanging out with the cast, or the main ones anyway, for a really long time after that. Letting go of that for high school was tough, and it was a rude awakening because, you know, the transition from middle school to high school is stark. I really wanted to continue to pour into them and foster those connections because I hate to let go of a friendship. I hate to jump into a new circumstance and let go of my old ones. I'm very big on old friendships, and I love making new friends too, but I gravitate towards my old ones. I just couldn't understand why they were so excited to jump into something new and let go of that. That's kind of what this song is about. It's sort of a resenting that my friends would move on so quickly. There was one friend that I just felt like we were growing apart, and I didn't understand why. I thought that they wanted a little bit more popularity than friendship, and we ended up talking about it later. I wouldn't say things are the same because it's hard to go back to 8th grade. I mean, I enjoyed 8th grade actually, but why would you? I found out that they kind of thought the same thing about me. They thought I was moving on to bigger and better things. High school requires you to step up, and if you don't want to get trampled, you kind of need to show up. So I showed up by totally changing around my wardrobe. I used to think like sweatshirts and leggings were so cool, and then I kind of delved into like the Madewell space, and I don't know, I dressed a little cuter, and I did my makeup and did my hair. And their way of showing up was connecting with new friends and making a lot of new friends, and I thought that that kind of meant that I was left in the dust, and I think they thought the new way I was presenting myself isolated them. So on both fronts, we were growing apart and we didn't really understand what each other's change meant. I wrote this song before we had that conversation, so this really gives an idea of how I was feeling, but I think that person would probably have felt a similar sentiment. A big thing that I kind of highlight in this song is the polarity between night and day. Our friend group was a little sentimental about nighttime. We would all like look at the moon and whatever, and I'm a very sentimental person by nature, so that was just foreshadowing for the rest of my life. So I kind of used that person was going over to the day as ditching the ideals that we had lived for. I sang all these starry skies I see, they'll always comfort me, because I still felt at home in the night. And I sang blinding skies won't capture me yet, and someday your sun's gonna set, because it's kind of like this new dawn awoke on that person, and I wanted to stay in the night. I love the night, and that's something fun that you'll hear throughout a lot of my songs in the future too. I think a lot of songs use daytime as being kind of a new awakening and joy and life, but I find that at night for the most part. I love a good like 4 p.m. like that afternoony time is great, but that's like my equivalent to morning. I use a lot of night being better in my songs, which I love. It's fun. That is the story behind Goodbye Friend. So I'd love to unpack some of the lyrics of this song. It is pretty self-explanatory, but I've got some fun stuff in here. So I actually wrote out, when I had first written it, or shortly after, a description of each of the lyrics, because I sent it to my grandma, which I think I've mentioned before. I'll play her some of my songs sometimes because she's obsessed with them, which is a grandma's job, but I have all of my thoughts behind it from back when I was 15 when I wrote this song. So I thought I would read some of those to you. So we start with mystery. I felt like this person would never really tell me what was going on in their life, so the word mystery came pretty naturally to describe them. Sing to me. I wish I could say this was also metaphorical, like singing is a sweet thing and I'd hear good news, but it just sounded better than talk to me. Is it all you had hoped for? I've had conversations with a friend of theirs who said that the entire time that we were in the friend group, it was a stepping stone to popularity. So now they are popular and it's asking whether it was worth it. In the light, out of night. This is where the comparisons start. Our group had a thing with the moon, and it would kind of remind us of each other and the perfect nights we had together. So I like to think of their ditching the friendship as leaving the night and going to the light or day. Now, something interesting about this song was that we ended up cutting the second verse. There was another verse right after Out of Night. I went into the studio and I was like, this song needs some help. I've lived with this song for 5 years. I need it to be revamped. So I really let my producer do what he wanted with it. He did a great job. It sounds so cool, and we'll talk about that soon. But that was one of the things. Just to kind of make it shorter and snappier, we took out that second verse. But I'll read it to you, and you'll hear a little bit of it in the videos. So it went, fade to white, in your spite, all I want is to hear you. Who were you? Tell the truth. And I'll read you the explanations behind those just because it gives you more an idea of the context. So fade to white, I liked a lyric in a musical that said this, and while the musical used it as death, I think it can also be used as a new era or something that impacts a lot of people. Death impacts a lot of people, and so did leaving the friendship behind. White also rhymes with night, so that maybe was not the most tasteful thing I've ever done. In your spite. I'd heard this word, but I had to look up spite to make sure it meant what I wanted to convey. I thought that doing things selfishly was a pretty good explanation of this person. All I want is to hear you. This is kind of a filler line. I don't really know what else to put. Who were you? I said who were you instead of who are you to show the change that this person has had. One of the questions I have for this person is what their real intentions were, which begs the question of whether they were part of the friendship because they wanted to be part of the friendship, or if they were part of the friendship because they thought it would bring them to popularity. The personality traits associated with this are either genuine or selfish, but I never asked the question when we were friends, so I'm now asking whether back then they were genuine or selfish because I didn't recognize that then. That was really wordy. Being in a musical friend group is not going to get you to popularity by any means. You need to really... Okay, so then we get into the pre-chorus. Pick and choose. They may have been choosing which friendships they wanted to maintain and which to let go, how the friendship went, etc. This is less of a command and more of what they were doing at the time, but there weren't enough syllables to show that. I love how I, talk about my songwriting process in here too, but it's not even like a process, it's just like how I fit the syllables in. It's all you. This person likes to make it seem like they're selfless, but in reality I think that they choose every word to convey a personality. Geez, I read into things a lot. Also, I'm guilty of that, so I need to dial back. I was really bitter, is what I'm realizing. I hadn't read through this until I started filming this video. Now that it's my turn, I say, following It's All You, I'm showing that I'm interjecting, and they need to stop. It's my turn to take action. So then we get into the chorus. Goodbye, friend. Everything else is so metaphorical, it really isn't. So this is plainly stating what I'm doing, something that they haven't done. Ooh, really bitter. Good gracious. It's the end. Someday your sun's gonna set. More metaphors, considering that they are now in daylight and I was/am, you'll see later, in night. Though they may be winning now, or at least think they are, the sun sets and they'll go down eventually. And then we also have blinding skies won't capture me yet, which I guess I didn't write about. So then we get into the second verse, which originally was the third. So you shout. This person is always looking for more attention. I use shouting to show that because it usually doesn't have a positive connotation. I'm left out. They didn't invite me to their birthday party. Okay, maybe. In high school, that is kind of a diss. Like, still, take a chill pill. You're constantly screaming, but inside you say you hide. I would have made the lines you say you hide inside, but that doesn't go with the syllables. This person on several occasions has said, I'm super antisocial, or I want to be more outgoing, and that bothers me because they are over the top social and outgoing, which isn't really true, but I just saw it that way. I tried. I just had to find a word to rhyme with hide. Why did I write this song? So I had to have 4 rhyming words in a row. To see your side. While we were still friends, this person said, for example, I'm in love with nature. I tried to embrace that. It didn't happen. Example 2, at the beginning of 9th grade, I'd say things like, I'm not letting them leave, but lol, that didn't work so well, did it? Girl. I'm just realizing how problematic I was in this process. I do think this song is still valid because it expresses a real sadness for a departure from a friendship, and that is what I was feeling, but I think I was taking it out in bitterness, and also, this was the only place I could really do that safely, so obviously the lyrics aren't as harsh as my explanation is, but oof. But your lunar phases last for a day, I'm pushed away. This line was originally promises you did not keep fill my mind, I am blind, but there were a couple of things wrong with that. 1, I wanted more moon references. 2, this showed my susceptibility to them, which A, is not true, and B, I do not want to convey. And 3, I already said the whole blinding thing. Believe it or not, I actually had to look up the word phases to go with the moon, so very smart. I didn't mean for it to get this technical, I just meant that one day they love the moon and the next band they're done with that. Alright, so then we obviously go back into the pre-chorus and the chorus again, and then we get into the bridge. All those starry skies I see, they will always comfort me. This is my favorite part. The bridge was actually the last thing I wrote. It took me a while to figure it out, but fun fact, the second verses were the hardest to write. While this person is over on the sunny side, I am still in night. However, instead of gazing at the moon, which I literally did a few months back, I've realized that there are stars in the night sky too. So even though the moon is still there, I've been looking at the stars. I've just decided right now that the moon is kind of for memories and the stars are for the present or future. I've stopped dwelling on the past more, and I'm probably thinking about the future too much. Song with a line about that coming soon, which is Lullaby. But I've just realized the beauty in where I am, without the need to go to the completely other side. Now we have a musical note and an emotional note. You'll notice that in the verses where I'm talking about this person or that friendship, the chords are minor generally, and in the chorus and for the most part bridge, they are major because I'm talking about being away from that relationship, something to think about. That's not necessarily true because the bridge goes F, G, C, E, F, G, C, E, oops, and then the chorus is F, G, C, D. So it just kind of has more of that more hopeful undertone. And then the emotional note. I know this is very angry, but it was to get my feelings out like songwriting should. My relationship with this person is not as bad as it seemed in this song, but what the song gets right about it is the friendship we used to have, the friendship we have now, and my feelings toward it all. Some of the commentary suggests that I know how they feel about it, and those are kind of rude, but I haven't actually asked this person about it all, and so none of the commentary that suggests what they're feeling is guaranteed, which is a very important caveat. Post talking to them about it, which it's been several years since we talked about it, so I'm not even sure how much of that is true, or how much I remember. They fully have the right to think the same things I did. I just was an angry little 15-year-old. Losing friendships are hard. So let's look at some videos from the songwriting process of Goodbye Friend. This first video I have is the video I took when I first started writing it on March 31st, 2018. And I believe I had all of it written there, but obviously some things changed. I do the same ukulele strum in like all of the songs that I wrote, and I ended up changing a lot of them. So yeah, I always do this. I keep going back to... It's like easier for me to like fill it in a little bit more now, but that's what I would always do. Eventually, it wasn't until we got into the studio, which I'm getting ahead of myself, but why not? This is my video, where I changed it to... So now I do this instead, which is also what I do for Match. I never would have done that back when I wrote these songs, but that's just kind of what happened in the studio. So this has that very quintessential early Mia songwriting strum. It also has the verse that we eventually cut. And then one thing that we changed in the studio, I was playing it for my producer, and on the chorus, sometimes I'll do Goodbye friend, it's the end. Someday your sun's gonna set. I haven't warmed up. And sometimes I'd do, goodbye friend, it's the end. So it's that difference between it's the end and it's the end. Right when I was starting to play it, I would always do that, it's the end. And then he was like, let's do that like, it's the end. It kind of like, adds a little bit of a, makes it a little swingy. Yeah, I would do that like on the beat, it's the end in this one. And then I used to play the bridge really freaking long. And I had this vision for it where I would sing the chorus and the bridge on top of each other, which you'll hear in some of my recordings that I did of it. All I want is to hear you. Who are you? Tell the truth. Goodbye friend, it's the end. Someday your sun's gonna set. Goodbye friend, it's the end. The next time I revisited this song was on the music account that I had with Greta that ended up being mostly just mine, but we shared it at the beginning. I had started posting these little crappy demos around COVID time-ish. I don't even really know how I did it because I can't imagine I even used GarageBand. I might have like recorded videos of it and layered them on iMovie. It was embarrassing. This one also has a really long bridge, but it has some harmony in there, so it gets a little bit fuller. Almost goodbye friends, it's the end. Someday your sun's gonna set. Goodbye friends, it's the end. Then on May 18th, 2021, I posted this video to my personal music account that I use just for new writes and things, just has my close friends on it. I had been re-recording all my songs to try to fall in love with them again. I've talked about this in I think the fairy tale, the making of video. I just kind of was recording them to revisit them and fall in love with them again. The caption on this one was, "You don't know me if you don't know Goodbye Friend." This is the first song I wrote when I got my first ukulele. As I've played this again and again for the last 4 years, I've grown to love it more and more, even in its simplicity. This song is about mixed messages from a friend and deciding what's best for you personally in the whole situation. Adopting this perspective actually allowed me to fix the relationship with the person later on, so it's got a happy ending. And this one I just found to be a lot more confident and faster paced. All those starry skies I see, they will always comfort me. Goodbye friend, it's the end. Someday your sun's gonna set. This is a silly little video I took on July 19th, 2021 for my close friends, where I had just set up my keyboard on the floor of my room, and I finally dug it out of my closet because I had a bunch of time, so I thought I would experiment. I played it on synth. So here's a 15-second clip of me playing Goodbye Friend on synth. They will always comfort me. Then on August 24th, 2021, I had started going to school in Chicago, and for the first like 2 or 3 weeks I would take like 4 hours every Tuesday and work on music stuff. We weren't really supposed to go into the music practice rooms, but I had just dropped the music minor, and so I was like, I still count, right? I mean, they had my information on their like slideshow the whole semester, so I'm like, nobody will know. Nobody has to know. I definitely quickly fell out of that once I realized I had like homework to do, and also once I got depressed. This was one of the first ones I wanted to make a little demo of it, and I don't know how I did this one either. It might have been GarageBand, but I'm not totally sure. But yeah, this is a little bit of that recording that I did. It's very falsetto-y harmony based, and I don't love it. It's still really slow. Listening to all these versions before, I can't believe it ever wasn't what Jake made it, because it's just the final version is so cool. Video I took of it before I brought it into the studio was February 6th, 2022, which is the demo that I uploaded to YouTube to send out to studios and stuff. It's closest to the actual version that we recorded in like time. It does sound the most like the final version. I had gotten a bass ukulele since the last time I recorded a demo of this, so that really added some oomph to it, and I included just like some claps, but it was simple percussion that really added to it. Obviously it still was very flat because most of my production is, because I only am able to use instruments and I have a hard time knowing where to add in like reverb or to include different plugins and things like that. So it was still pretty simple, but this one I found to be a lot better than the previous versions. All those starry skies I see, they will always comfort me. Goodbye, friend, it's the end. Someday your sun's gonna set. So then we get into the recordings that we did in the studio. So this first one I have is from November 9th, 2022. And I believe this was the last song that we started working on. I think we did Fairy Tale and then Match on the first day, and then we did Lullaby and then Goodbye Friend on the second day, because I really wasn't sure where I wanted Goodbye Friend to go. So we didn't do a whole ton on this one that day. We did the majority of it on the last day that we were in the studio. So this first recording that I have is super bassline, but it's kind of cool because you can hear where it was at before we added everything. It really is just the vocals, some ukulele, and the kick. And we really dialed back on the kick, put it in different places, but this one, it starts off just And then the only other difference here, which I'm not even sure I'll show you, is that the second verse is gone. Good riddance. I was sad about it at first, but now I don't really care. Now that it's my turn, I'll say goodbye, friend. It's the end. Someday your sun's gonna set. Goodbye, friend. It's the end. Now, the difference between November 9th and November 11th is staggering. It's crazy. I don't know what we did, I don't know what Jake did, but it is magical. So the beginning has some vocal stuff going on, some like mixy whatever. One of the biggest inspirations I had for this EP, I really wanted the production to sound like, was Party Favor by Billie Eilish, and so this really draws from that, you know, the really muffled, like kind of sounds like you're on a voicemail at the beginning. It has a lot of that. And then we also took a lot of inspiration from Maisie, like Dum Dum and the rest of that EP. I hadn't listened to a ton of her stuff at the time, but Jake was into it and it had the vibe. It had that like youthful kind of silly vibe to it. We brought in these claps too to add some of that percussion, you know, as an homage to my demo. We brought some harmonies. This kick is different, you know, we threw it in different spots. And there's these like, I described it as like glittery moments. Just, it's like, it makes it magical. The way I described it, the way it's in my mind, is like a song from Wreck-It Ralph, like in the Sugartopia or whatever they call that. It sounds like it would be in that, and I love that. It's so cool. It fits the vibe so well, and I never imagined it like that, but I just love how it turned out. It's all you. Now that it's my turn, I'll say goodbye, friend. It's the end. Someday your sun's gonna set. Goodbye, friend. So then the next recording I have of it was August 24th. The only thing I wrote there was that there was less muffle during the pre-chorus. I wanted it to get a little bit louder, like more progressively. But one thing I will say here that I want to talk about was how I took my original vision for the bridge and incorporated it into the final version. So I had this vision where I would be able to sing the bridge and the chorus on top of each other. So what I was originally going to do was do the bridge and then the chorus, and then both of them at the same time. But that would have taken forever. What we ended up doing was having one bridge that was just on its own, and then doing another repetition with the first part of the chorus on top of it, so you can hear that like, all those starry skies I see with goodbye friend, it's the end. We go into the final chorus, so the blinding skies part. Overlap those a little bit, kind of a Venn diagram vibe, instead of like having the bridge and then the chorus and then the bridge chorus. So it's still in there, it's just a little bit less of a moment. I've always been really huge on like overlapping parts, and they just get complicated and long, but it was a fun idea, and we still got a little bit of it in there. All those starry skies I see, Then I got another one on September 2nd, 2023. Another thing I want to say here that was so cool is there's a sound effect thing. I don't actually know what it is because Jake did all the mixing on his own. This sound effect that sounds like when you drag something into the trash can on your computer. I don't know, and that's probably just how I like think of it, but that is such a petty thing to include, but it's so fun. Another thing I want to say about this too is I really wanted to include something in the second verses that was kind of akin to, is it in We're Never Ever Getting Back Together, where she's like, so he calls me up and he's like, I still love you, Yeah, because it feels kind of empty, but I just couldn't think of anything to include. And I have videos of this person, but I wasn't gonna do that. Like that's too far. It just stayed empty. But that was the vision. So you can imagine that if you want to include some made up talking part in there, feel free to add that of your own volition. Goodbye, friend. It's the end. Blinding skies won't capture me yet. Goodbye, friend. It's the end. So you showed. And then on October 2nd, I got the final master of the song. Goodbye, friend. It's the end. Blinding skies won't capture me yet. Goodbye, friend. It's the end. All the starry skies I see. So that is the process it went through in the studio. This song is my baby. It is my child. I wrote this so long ago, and it is the start of an era. It feels like my newborn baby. Well, not newborn anymore, but you know what I mean. I feel like each of my songs will always be as old as they were in the process, so this will always be my baby. It's got a special place in my heart, even though it's kind of silly. Of anyone that would figure out that these songs are about them, I think this one is the most likely. If you're watching this is just how I felt in middle school. I hope we can be friends. I've appreciated your support. I was clearly very bitter. It's been interesting even just recording this video to go back and kind of revisit those emotions that I was feeling, because I was very just disappointed by that lack of relationship. I think I felt very alone in high school. I didn't have a friend group that felt really true to me. I ended up moving schools and things got better and whatever, but it was a tough time, and I think this song reflects that. It might surprise you actually to hear about some of the stuff that has happened since middle school, because I ended up going to my new school with one of the girls that was in that friend group, and we became way closer than we ever were in middle school, and there were some people that were in relationships and that broke up, and people that stayed connected and people that didn't, and it was a whole thing. So it's crazy. It kept coming back up. But one thing that was huge was I felt like I fully grieved those friends and that experience right when it happened. And then all my friends like a year or two later came back and were grieving it then. And so I was like, oh, we're all back now. And like, you guys are processing these emotions that I processed 2 years ago. I think I appreciated that it always kept coming back because I loved it a lot. Anyway, that's my rant about middle school. I actually really enjoyed it. I loved my friends outside of my high school, but middle school friends were great. I loved it. That's Goodbye Friend. Thank you for listening in on the making of Goodbye Friend, for being interested in how it came to be. I'm so just honored to get to share that process with you, to get to share the song with you that's now out wherever you listen to music. I'm so excited about it. I hope that you will stream it a million times, show it to all your friends, put it on your stories and on your playlists. I have a ton more music written. I mean, like upwards of 9 projects that I can put out, and the more that you interact with this stuff and hype it up, the closer I can be to getting those out sooner and doing this full time. So your support means the world to me, and even if you didn't support me, just knowing you is a gift. I want to know you. I want to just interact with you. I've met so many lovely, lovely people through this already, even with my first EP coming out less than a week ago at the time that I'm recording this. It's just been so lovely, and I can't wait for all the adventures to come. And I'm so thankful that you have chosen to come along with me on the ride, or even just stop by for a second to wave and say hi. I love you. I'm so thankful for you. I really am. I can't wait to show you more. I hope you're doing so good. I love you again. Bye.